On to the United States now. The Biden administration is needling China again, this time with a trade deal with Taiwan. It was signed yesterday. Taiwan has called the pact historic. They say this is the most comprehensive in 4 decades. What do they get out of it? The goal of the pact is to boost trade by streamlining customs checks, improving regulatory procedures, and by establishing anti-corruption measures. China is not liking this one bit. It has sent across this warning.
The so-called initiative is nothing but a pretext for economic and trade cooperation from the US, using a baton of taking and seizing from Taiwan. It is a proxy for the Taiwan DPP authorities to betray the vital interests of Taiwan compatriots and enterprises and harm and sell Taiwan for their own gain. This is the latest example of the US trying to hollow out the One China principle.
The outrage is genuine. China's reaction is on expected lines. Taiwan is a touchy issue. Beijing says the trade deal is a threat to its sovereignty, since it sees Taiwan as a breakaway province. Beijing has vowed to reclaim the island, and it doesn't rule out using force. In recent years, these tensions have only risen, mainly because of the actions by the United States. Last year, Nancy Pelosi's visit deteriorated the situation. Back then, she was the Speaker of the US House of Representatives. So she became the highest-ranking US official to visit the island in 35 years. China had condemned this visit. It had called the visit extremely dangerous. Beijing responded with provocative drills around the island. The PLA launched ballistic missiles. Some of them even flew over the island. There was stern diplomatic response too. The US-China relationship hasn't recovered since then. There are virtually no diplomatic exchanges. US has tried to resume dialogue, but China refuses to talk. Now we have a trade deal with Taiwan. Is it a counterproductive move? Well, it seems like it. While the accord is a first, since 1979, the pact falls short of a comprehensive trade agreement. The deal is limited in scope. It fails to address several key issues like tariffs on traded goods and double taxation, which is a pain point for Taipei. So the agreement will have a narrow impact, and it risks raising tensions with China. Is this even worth it? Biden's priority was to manage differences with China and avoid a conflict under any circumstances. In fact, a few days ago, he said, "We'll witness a thaw soon." Listen it.
At the Bali conference, that's what the President Xi and I agreed we were going to do and meet on. And then this silly balloon that was carrying 2 freight cars worth of spine equipment was flying over the United States, and it got shot down, and everything changed in terms of talking to one another. I think you're going to see that begin to thaw very shortly.
Well, it has not happened yet. Instead, the hostilities are rising. Just listen to what Blinken said today.
So Russia's aggression hasn't distracted us from meeting the challenges in the Indo-Pacific. It's actually sharpened our focus on them. And our support for Ukraine hasn't weakened our capabilities to meet potential threats from China or anywhere else. It's strengthened them.
Blinken says US will no longer be intimidated by China. Instead, it will take the challenge head-on. Are we headed towards a conflict? Well, we hope not, but the Cold War is intensifying. Hopes of a dialogue were dashed recently. China declined an invite from the US Defense Secretary. He wanted to meet his Chinese counterpart this week. Blinken and US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen were hoping to meet their counterparts too. Now again, no dates have been set. Instead, the West's resolve to contain China is getting stronger. Last month, the G7 leaders called out Beijing. They issued their strongest condemnation yet. They said the military, economic and security threats from China are rising. Serious concerns were expressed over the PLA's activities in the East and South China Sea. So the divisions are getting wider and the relationship more frosty. Forget about managing differences. The US and China are on a collision course, and the rest of us have reason to worry.